Let's continue with our next session, which is a panel discussion on exploring IT audit, empowering auditors for the digital era. This session will be moderated by Mr. Steven Chong, member of Digital Technology Implementation Committee, DTIC MIA. Joining him as a panelist are Mr. Sia Chin Ho, Audit Partner and Head of IT Audit KPMG, and Mr. Eddie Leng, Director and Founder of ALE Advisory Sdn Bhd and former President of ISACA Malaysia Chapter. Over to you, Mr. Steven.
Thanks, Nadira. Thank you. Good morning and welcome everyone to another year of MIA Digital Months. Kicking off our campaign this year is the topic of IT audit. And I've been told that we have very, very good attendance today, not only from fellow practitioners, fellow members from PAIB or the commercials, but we also have a good attendance from the universities, being the students and academics. So during the preparation that Mr. Sia, Mr. Eddie Leng, myself had, we were sort of conscious of the audience that we have today. So what we're going to attempt to do is to also try and cover the different perspectives when it comes to what is IT audit, what it encompasses, for our audience benefit. Now, before we dive too far into the thick and thins of it, let's just take you through a very, very short overview of what the topic today is about. Now, during the preparation, I think between Sia and myself, we also joked a little bit in terms of what is IT audit. So many years ago, let's say, something like 15 years ago, when we spoke about IT audit in the professional firms, those days we typically assume that IT audit means installing audit software, and then that's IT audit law, right? But what we're going to flesh out for you today is much more complex, if I may, and much more sophisticated than that very old perception of sorts in terms of what IT audit could be. Yeah. So first off, I just want to also emphasize to everyone that we're very honored today to have Mr. Eddie Leng and also Mr. Sia with us, both of them whom are members of ISACA as well. So in the lead up to creating this session, we did over at MIA DTIC, we did a lot of engagement with ISACA to actually build some of these effort around trying to educate and create awareness amongst our membership as well in terms of what IT audit is. Now, I know ISACA usually calls themselves ISACA, but I did a bit of Google search today just to clarify what ISACA stands for. So let me read that out for the benefit of our audience as well. So ISACA, ISACA actually stands for Information Systems Audit and Control Association. Now, for those of you guys who are not in the know, this is a group of specialist technology-driven auditors, where ISACA not only issues certification for IT audit, controls audit, systems controls audit, but they also issue certifications in cybersecurity certification, for instance. Okay, so I would encourage you guys to also look up what is ISACA, but I will also attempt to invite Mr. Eddie and Mr. Sia to also brief us a little bit in terms of what they do in their specialization. Now, back to the session itself. So what we're going to try and do for you today is to dive into the principles or the core concepts around what is IT audit, okay? And then what we're going to also attempt to do is to try and show you why is that relevant? Because long time ago, I may not be fair here, but allow me to attempt to say this. Long time ago, maybe IT audit is a realm of the banks. banks use a lot of very complex systems, and Bank Negara also has a lot of requirements, around this sort of governance. So my own perception, and Eddie and Sia, please feel free to correct me later when I pass the session to you. But all in all, that situation has changed so much, because look at where we are now. We're doing this session via Zoom, and post-pandemic, there's so much businesses and companies that have moved on into technology, and those of us who are professional accountants working in companies where there's a lot of use of technology, that's one side. Then those of us who are auditors, for instance, who audit clients where there's a lot of use of technology, for instance, this is becoming more and more and more prevalent. So the question that we're going to try and explore today is also, how IT audit has now come to the center stage. Yeah, which is why at the committee, at the Digital Technology Implementation Committee, we honestly believe that this is something that members need to be very, very, very aware of. And so we kick off, our digital month with this topic for you guys. And of course, last but not least, we try and flesh out some of the examples, some of the practicalities in terms of what happens in the world of IT audit. And of course, we have very, very qualified experts on the panel today to share with you in terms of what those parameters could be. Now, just to impress upon everyone now, in terms of who we have on the panel, perhaps if I could invite Mr. Eddie Leng, if you'd like to do the honors to say hi and just to share with us a little bit more about yourself.
Sure, thanks, Steven. All right. Hey, I'm Eddie. So as introduced, I am with this ill advisory Sdn Bhd. This is my own boutique risk and controls advisory firm. Of course, we provide IT audit services where we do help organizations build their IT audit practice. We run IT audit programs, or you even do training for aspiring IT auditors. Now, a bit background on myself, I've been in this industry more than 20 years, so you know how old I am, right? Let's not disclose. So I've been with a big four organization doing IT audit, leading their IT audit practice, as well as in corporate positions, heading internal IT audit functions. So I have experiences from both the external perspective as well as internal organization perspective in terms of doing IT audit. Outside normal work, I do some volunteering with the ISACA Malaysia chapter. I think it's just a way of contributing back to the IT audit profession. Yeah. All right. I think that's a brief introduction of myself. Back to you, Steven.
Thanks, Eddie. Thank you. Mr. Sia, would you like to take over?
Thanks, Steven. Good morning, everyone. As mentioned by Steven, my name is Sia. I'm currently the audit partners as well as head of IT audit for KPMG in Malaysia. Being an audit partner means I'm still in the practice, and I have more than 20 years of experience in both financial audit as well as IT audits, including the internal control review. And besides that, as part of my background, I also the appointed member of the AASB board. Same like Eddie, I'm also previously served on the board of ISACA Malaysia chapters for 2 years. And in terms of my professional practice, I actually is in charge the audit engagements in KPMG Malaysia that relevant to the technology. The companies that you may aware that could include that those e-wallet, e-payments gateway, digital content technology solution company, and at the same time, I'm also the IT audit specialist for the engagements that involving in oil and gas, financial institutions, insurance, as well as the digital bankings. So this IT audits section is part of the audit support under the audit divisions of the firm. So that is the summary about what I'm doing. Back to you, Steven.
Thank you, sirs. So yeah, let's dive into the thick and thins of it. Yeah. So one of the very first things that I would like to invite our speakers to do today is to let's just set the foundation, yeah, and set it right lah, in terms of what IT audit actually is. So if I could invite both Eddie and Sia to let's start with definition, you know, perhaps even from an ISACA angle if possible, like what is defined proper as IT audit. And secondly, let's also attempt to establish some parameters, yeah, as to what IT audit actually encompass, because the, you know, especially amongst external auditors, because the word IT audit, the word audit is inside there, so then we assume it's our usual substantive stuff and so on. So let's try and you know, set up some parameters as well in terms of what IT audit actually encompass. Better still, you know, share some examples with us. You know, like when you move into an assignment, and you embark on a scope around expert IT audit kind of worker, what does that actually encompass? If you've got more story, also please share some also. So perhaps if I could invite Eddie to start first, if I may.
Yeah, Steven. Okay, if we look at pure definition of IT audit is really surrounding, you know, assessing internal controls, and specifically IT internal controls. What is IT internal controls? It's really, you know, the activities, control processes that tries to protect or mitigate risk for organizations, especially if you're looking into IT risk. What are IT risks? IT risk is really, you know, anything to do with IT, whether it's security, you know, change controls, problems with operations. All of this encompass as IT risk. And as an IT audit, you are looking at, you know, what are the controls that they have, organizations have put in place, you know, to mitigate all these risks. Now, typically in an IT audit assignment, there's many different types of IT audit assignments. It can be on the general environment, which is basically what we do for most of the external audit type of clients, or we can do more specific engagements like cybersecurity audit. Cybersecurity audit these days, you know, is a big topic. And as IT auditors or even cybersecurity auditors, we will look into processes, controls surrounding cybersecurity activities, be it helping organizations to plan for protecting their environment, detecting any breaches, mitigating, recovering if, you know, organizations have been breached. So all of these are part and parcel of, you know, IT audit processes, IT audit assignments. I think the more in thing moving towards the future is probably IT audit surrounding the area of AI, artificial intelligence. We have actually used AI in a lot of business activities these days. Moving forward, there's definitely going to be much more activities surrounding AI. And looking into these areas, auditing AI as part of IT audit, may be something different because of how AI processes, how AI sort of think, and how, you know, AI's algorithms are being developed and so on and so forth. So it becomes a really interesting avenue in the future, you know, looking into auditing AI as, you know, one of the more interesting topics. Yeah. Back to you, Steven.
Thanks, Eddie. Xia, can I pass to you to take us through a bit deeper into that as well?
No problem, Steven. I think I will just top up in addition to what Eddie has explained to the audience. Of course, IT audit itself is broad and wide, but there's one part of it that is extremely important for the audit professions, as we have academics and students as well as the public practitioners in these forums. And you may know that in the audit world, we conduct our audits based on ISA, International Standard Auditing. And for the big practice, they even involve themselves in US listed company under the PCAOB standard. And IT audit in the statutory financial audit is actually a very important part of it. And the objective, of course, is the companies that are using IT system, IT process to support their financial reporting process. Therefore, for the auditors to do their job and rely on any informations that come up from the system, it has to be audited as well, And of course, that information is subject to IT control. And when I say IT control, don't try to think of very complicated situations. IT control basically is also split into manual control as well as the automated control. And during this process, the auditors is required to evaluate the design and implementations of this control and perform testing on the operating effectiveness in order to conclude that whether those informations that store in the system that subject for the auditors to audit are actually reliable. And if it's not, and then auditor will have to modify their audit approach through the substantive testing. Put it in the layman simple words to explain is means to do more work or to do lesser work. So this is what the lecturer always say, control reliance or not to rely. So of course, as the main goal is for the auditors to rely on the effectiveness of this control to reduce the substantive procedures. And in a more complicated way is also part of the requirement under ISA, especially the ISA 315. To those who are familiar with this standard, as part of the a very important change in 2019, is the auditor is required to understand the IT of that company and make the assessment during the audit planning that whether they will plan to rely on those IT control and what are the testing that they need to perform in order to place reliance on it. And if not, what are the manual testing they need to do more during their substantive work. So that is actually part of the very important definitions of so-called IT audit as part of the statutory audit.
Thanks, yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, everyone, so I think Eddie and Sia have done a fantastic job in defining very, very clearly in terms of what IT audit encompasses. So let's just bear that in mind, and then in the coming 5 or 6 more questions that I'm gonna bring up, this will become the basis of our discussion today. Now, let's start with the student and the lecturer audience, that we have today, whereby for the benefit of our audience from the educational institutions, perhaps if Eddie and Sarah, if you could share with us a little bit more examples as well. We're going to go a bit deeper and help our student audience get a better feel of what does it actually mean by perhaps a profession even in IT audit, or when they join a division or a department as such, or a company like Eddie's or Sia working under you, under the IT audit team. What do they actually do on a day-to-day basis, or maybe from your angle as a partner, as a director leading this sort of engagements, what is your wish list for them? What sort of qualities do you want out of them? And when they do work for you, what sort of an output that you expect as well from them? So yeah, I'll leave it open. And any one of you, would you like, if you'd like to start first?
I can start first, it's fine. Those who actually can search my LinkedIn profile, as you can see that I'm actually a qualified accountant at the beginning. and being a qualified accountant as well as a member of MIA, as well as ACCA. And that is what the normal, typical accountant way that someone will need to pursue through passing the professional exam. And I believe today there are many students who are actually accounting students and may not have a lot of IT students today. But being an IT auditor doesn't mean that I will expect you to hold a very thorough IT qualification in computer science or programming experience. That is the misunderstanding. And a lot of IT auditor actually, whether it's in Malaysia, Europe, or US, they are actually converted from an accountant. And being an auditors, the main function, of course, is to audit the financial statement of your client. And I want everybody to think about that. In the past, when people walk into the company, they will audit the financial statement, and that company is a manufacturing. You can see the machine, you can see the people, label, you can see a lot of lorries, stock output, which is the inventory. You can see all these things. You can touch it, but imagine that now there's so many business. As what I mentioned just now, business involved in apps, e-commerce, involved in digital content. The companies that run and operate the e-wallet, e-payment gateway, those things you walk into their office, other than seeing the computer, you don't see anything about their business process. And from that angle, when the auditor walk into the companies to do the audit, financial auditor will have to look back to the IT auditor and say, I need your help, and you need to help me to audit the process, and so that I can continue my job on the figures. So that actually, the daily basis in the firm, you will see that my team, as well as the financial auditor, they actually has already start integrated and go together into the client's premises and to do the audit together. They don't actually split in two teams. They will run the audit together and go through the process together and understand what are the risks and the control that being in place during the process as part of this audit. So that is the typical, I would say, typical scene that you will see if you walk into any Big Four company.
Eddie, would you like to continue?
Yeah, thanks, Steven. Yep, I think Mr. Sia has elaborated in terms of professional practice coming in from an external party to audit an organization. Let me go to the other flip side, being in a corporate organization. Now, typically, IT auditors in corporate organizations are employed as internal auditors, IT internal auditors. Now, it's not so much different from what the activities performed by the external IT auditors, but in these circumstances, as an internal IT auditor, you are there to help organization ensure that the controls, especially IT controls, have been put in place, are operating effectively, and you are able to give assurance to your stakeholders, be it your senior management, be it your board, be it your shareholders, that you have a system of IT internal controls in place. So that is a key difference between from an internal perspective and from an external perspective. From an internal perspective, you look into all sorts of IT controls. Now, from a financial audit perspective, they are really looking into your financial reporting, that means your numbers and things like that. So they look at the controls surrounding your financial reporting systems. How are your information being captured for financial transactions, your revenue, your inventory, and so on and so forth. Now, as an internal IT auditor, you can look at different things. You can look at auditing, say, for example, your call center systems. If you are one of those banks in marketing, you can look at, how you go to market, how you adopt technology to help your business grow. For instance, some organizations may be looking into adopting cloud technology as part of their cost initiatives and part of their business decisions. What are the risks when you're adopting cloud, where be it AWS, Azure, or some of our other platforms, right? Have you put adequate controls, IT controls in place? So you play a role of not only being an auditor, but also as an advisor to your organizations in terms of building that controls, that system of internal controls. Yeah. Just to give some context from the internal corporate organization's perspective.
Super. Got it. Then what I'll invite our speakers to do now is also to transition a little bit into public practice as well. Yeah. So noting we also have practitioners in the audience today. I would also like to ask from the perspective of the accounting firms or our members working in the professional firms. How is your observation around the maturity of the market in terms of adopting or requiring IT audit services? Has it become an imperative? Like, is it something that within the firms? Is this something that because we're already auditors, so we also start and say that we can also do IT audit as practitioners. Or how much of deep tech capabilities are we actually talking about? And this might a little bit relate to one of the Q&A questions that have come up very early on in Pigeonhole as well, in terms of what is the intensity of tech knowledge that is actually required to perform IT audit work. Mr. Xia, would you like to start first?
No problem. As audit partners, if you ask whether it's imperative, I would say it has a growing trend, but surely it will be imperative in the future. And why I say so is because currently in the Malaysian market, it is just the competitions between the traditional business as well as the emerging business. If your practice, I'm referring to the audit partners in this forum, if your practice is actually mainly focused on traditional business, I would say yes, you can still happily to go alone for now. And however, I want you to think of what are the latest developments in the market now after the pandemic. I would say three different stakeholders for your reference. And when we talk about the company, we saw companies start invested into cloud and the ERP solution with the objective to reduce manpower. I think everybody knows why, because you are using a computer or the system to do work, so you will avoid the staff to apply for MC. There will be no leave, no promotions to talk about, no increments to talk about, no complaint about work-life balance, all these sort of things that you need to deal with human, and computer don't go on leave. Automated the control, and even some companies start using AI to operate it. So that's the development in the company. And if I talk about another stakeholder, government, as everyone of you know, the government promote ESG agenda. That's why you saw, even though e-invoicing is coming up, government promote digital transformations, and the government themselves also invested in APP for their daily operations and for the efficiency as well as the customer experience. Like you may see parking APP, e-wallet APP, payment made online, paperless, and all this is showing you that is a growing trend. And if I come from a regulator perspective, the regulators focus to ensure compliance, especially relates to the, I will refer to regulator means security commissions, those apply for public interest entities. The focus on internal control over financial reporting, that if you are using IT, including some of you may know that in the US as well as Japan and China, they have a very stringent regulations, and the US can call SOC, as well as the regulator will expect a certain compliance in terms of the IT risk control, as well as the governance. And last but not least, the regulator also expect that the board of directors, including independent director, to talk about all these IT matters as part of the board agenda, including having a private sections with the auditor to discuss and address whatever control deficiency that they highlighted during the audit. So that is the developments in the market now. Over to you, Steven.
Thank you, Chen. Thank you. Eddie, anything to add to that piece?
I think Sia has mentioned a lot of things from the landscape perspective and things like that. Maybe I just talk and touch a bit on the practitioner's perspective, especially for those that are not in the big fours, right? Big fours, as you know, they are all on control reliance approach and so on and so forth. Many of the other practitioners, especially the smaller firms, they are not on a control reliance approach, which means most of the time I see that they are on full substantive. I guess for these organizations looking into this landscape is that you should really start building your practice in terms of understanding what is a control reliance approach. And control reliance approach is not just about IT controls, it's also about business controls surrounding your financial reporting systems. So that is also the part of the manual controls and IT controls as well. So that is the knowledge base that you need to develop and grow within your practice. If you are looking into some of these businesses that is going to adopt a lot of technology changes or technology innovation in their businesses. Many SMEs organizations these days are already adopting technology as part of their business. Imperatively, I think moving forward, you'll see more and more of these businesses being more technology dependent to record their financial transactions. And that is where you need to consider having this control reliance approach. Yeah, that's just my thoughts. Yeah.
So on that note, can I just ask you a sub question a little bit there? So over at the external auditors, I know we usually have an audit program around what is called ITGC or GITC, whichever you call it. So clearly there's still some level of IT controls that the external auditors are doing, while there will also be such work which is so complex that experts like yourselves has to be brought in as use of work of expert to get the audit work done. Can I invite you guys to just go a little bit deeper into that and help dissect and differentiate, or maybe in what situation are we talking about the default ITGC, and in what situation our auditors in the audience have to realize that this is too intense and it's not something that those of us who only know audit with lacking the IT expertise and we got to bring you guys in as well but can I invite you guys to flesh that part out a bit for us as well?
Sure. Let me start, Steven. Okay. Now, typically, I guess all auditors, external auditors as well, should understand a bit on technology and how to audit technology. The reason that we are saying this is because as part of the requirements, you need to understand the system of internal controls, including IT controls, be it whether you're big, small usage of computers. You may be using a small, simple, let's say off-the-shelf accounting system. That is still a use of technology. Now, for this type of organizations, you classify, the usage of complexity of system as maybe low, and that is where I guess the external auditors, the general auditors themselves, can actually do a little bit of IT controls testings. Now, when we talk about IT controls testings for this type of clients and even more substantive type of clients, it's still the same. We are still looking into general IT controls. It's just the level of intensity that you look into it is different. For the low classification type of organizations, you probably want to test and understand the controls design and implementation, While if you are using specialists or if you can do it yourself for the larger or more complex organization, you are already testing the operating effectiveness of the IT controls. Now, the three key things for financial audit support is really looking into security controls, change management controls, and IT operation controls. So these are the three main topics that we usually look at for financial audit purposes. Yeah. So for the more complex systems, say for example, full-fledged ERP, if you are using a cloud-based solution, you are in-house developed systems. These are probably the things that you may want to consider getting an IT specialist to help out. If your environment is considered as low classification, then a general auditor may be able to document the information provided they have been properly trained and you know what the activities that need to carry out. That's just my take.
Thanks, Eddie. Thanks, Eddie. Yeah.
Okay, I will just top up what Eddie has explained, but in a more deeper way, especially coming from a public practice auditor's point of view. That, of course, working on the GITC as well as the ISA 315 required expectations as a independence party when you audit the financial informations, you need to understand the clients, how do they run all this process. And to a certain extent, the current development is not all companies have the control resided in their organizations. I believe that everyone will hear about there are many arrangements outside the organization like SaaS, SaaS, software as a service. And all these are actually the control not resided within the organizations. However, the auditor, when they audit the financial statement and the system within the company, they realize that, oh, there are certain part of this control is outside the organizations. Then that popped up another question is like, did those service organizations control are being audited by another independent party? And currently, the person who can audit that service organization's control is actually the qualified IT auditors, which is the auditor in Malaysia who having the IT, the audit license. Same as the current license that the audit partners is having, but because the company, the firm has actually complied with the ISQM1, so they are allowed to sign these IT attestations engagement. That is actually to provide independent opinion for the service organization control. And in general, of course, these are the engagements that are performed by, I would say, mid-size until the big-size audit firm. And the key things that besides looking at the service organization's control, the auditor themselves, the main objective is currently required by the ISA is how did the auditors ascertain the reliability, which in the financial assertion is the completeness and accuracy of all these informations within the system before the auditors start using it to perform their work. And in addition to that, as part of the understanding of the IT for that group of companies, should there be an event of cybersecurity breach during the period, auditor, you are supposed to assess management assessment on how did the impact that happens to your financial information. How do you know that the financial statement that passed to you after the cybersecurity breach that is still complete and accurate? What are the steps and procedure that you perform to ascertain that portions? And the another example I will mention is, as I said just now, companies are constantly upgrading their system within the premise, or even move from a premise on-prem to cloud. So it is inevitable that when you perform the audit during the period, there are system and data migrations. When there are system and data migrations, that pop up another questions to you as the independent auditors, that how do you ascertain the completeness and accuracy of the information that carry on hand that has been migrated during the process? How do you know that they migrated completely? How do you know that the information from the legacy system to the new system are actually migrated accurately, and with the information doesn't be modified or manipulated by management during this exercise? So you need to ascertain all this as part of your audit under the ISA requirement. So that's my point, Steven.
Now, we have a very large audience from PAIB today, professional accountants in business, aka commercials. So let's go into the same topic, but from our members in commercial point of view. You know, those of us who are CFOs, FC, FMs. How does IT audit relate to them? Now, the reality is not all of us, come from a banking background or work with a bank. Because if you work with a bank, no-brainer already on bank negara will win all this on you. But those of us who are, say in a technology company, where the company uses a lot of technology in their transactions, maybe even up to thousands of, automated transactions by the minute, by the second kind of situation. So then, specifically in what sort of situation that our members who are, the gatekeepers of the wallet of the finance need to realize or need to note that IT control systems you can't just leave it with the techies. You can't just leave it with the vendors. At what point in time does the financial people need to realize that the system is up to a certain complexity where we have to bring experts like you guys in? Pass to you. Eddie, would you like to start first?
Yeah. Okay, this is my thoughts. When do you need to start bringing in? I think from day one. If you are already knowing that your system is going to be complex, they are going to process complex transactions, they are going to be computing, say, your revenue, or they are trying to, restock your inventory levels automatically, and so on and so forth. These are fairly complex, systems and transactions that they will be posting into the financial systems. At the beginning, when you are implementing these systems, you should already, engage with specialists to at least give you advisory in terms of what type of controls that you need to put in place, right? Yeah, so I think from the beginning, you need to be aware that you need help understanding technology controls, understanding what are technology risks in play, and understanding, what type of controls should be adequate for your environment.
Thanks, Eddie. Thanks. Mr. Xiang?
Yeah, I would say I cannot agree more with Eddie on this. However, I top up one point, especially when Steven, you said there are many, which is non-audit practitioners in these forums. They are especially in the commercials. Currently, what they need to know is when you try to have system in place, or someone is actually starting a new business for having system to operate it. That's what Eddie just mentions, the control should start since day one. And the question is, who is the one that design and implement those controls? And that actually is a question to the business owner, as well as, I would say, C-level person. Why? Because when we talk about identify the control, in fact, it should be the one who can identify the risk at the first place. Because only you know the risk, then only you can design a control and implement it. But this IT control, and as well as the IT risk, it is not, it may not be the so-called welcome topic for the IT personnel currently that we encounter. Why? Based on my experience that talking all to my clients in the tech space, they will thought that I hire IT guys come in and then they will help me to set up all this. That I think that is a very, very huge understanding gap. The IT fellows who come in is to operate and make sure the system is there. However, they may not be the one to assess the risk. These are two different topics. Even though the one can assess the risk, doesn't mean that he knows the latest control models that is appropriate and adequate to address this risk, because this keep changing. That's why, especially that to some business owner, I buy a new, very expensive ERP system. I thought that once I install the system, everything runs online, then it's done. It's okay already. No, that is totally not the case. Because you have the system is one thing. You did not manage it is another thing. I think since everybody's on this forum, I thought a very simple example is like somebody come to approach me that I want to have a huge database and servers to run my business, so I don't want to break down once. So the IT advisor say, oh yeah, then you need to build a cool aircon room, and then you have all your server in the on-prem, but in the control wise, you will need to lock the room so no one can access to that room, and better you use the smart lock that you can key in the pin and you can reset the pin anytime. So these are the risks and the control that he suggested. So when auditor come over to say, oh, the owner will say that, yeah, I have a room, I secure this room. But when you start checking this, you realize that number one issue, yeah, you have a password in that room, but you stick your password next to the room. And yes, you have the logbook on the tables that whoever want to access that room, you must register with your logbook, but no one care, it's not complete. And you can say that, but I have another compensating control. I have a key. But when I ask for a key, I see it hanging in your room. Anyone can go into a room and get the key and open the door. So yes, you have a very fantastic infrastructures as well as the securities. However, it doesn't work. Well, you can say, but I install a CCTV to see who is accessing to this room. But yes, you have a CCTV, but the CCTV, you didn't back up. You didn't actually store the backup copy in a format that you can anytime check it out. So all these are not in place, even though you have an excellent first-class infrastructures, doesn't mean that your control is passed. I hope that everyone can understand from this example.
Yeah, great example, man. Great example. And I just remembered something that I'll just share for fun with the fellow practitioners here as well. I remember in the most recent inspection from the Audit Oversight Board, they actually came in and picked some of the staff, just at the audit floor, and asked them, if you log into your audit software and see, so log in, bypass the password, no password login for Windows. Then log into all this software. 1, 2, 3 went in already. Wow, we don't know where. So just a friendly reminder.
Yeah, that is a good one, I think, Steven. I think that one, even though I don't mind to share that one of the inspections criteria is when the reviewer come to audit those audit firm and check the quality control. They log in their laptop and look at the audit software. You know that we have this so-called retention period of the audit file, as well as your sign off must be signed off on time. But somehow you check the laptop setting, you can see that you can change the date. that is basically no control. You can change the date and backdate. So that is not what the purpose of the audit software about, So these are also an example that you can get comments from the inspectors. You didn't comply with the audit closing and retention policy.
Yeah. So on that note, you see, one of the things we spoke about at MIA very early on is also governance. Not just corporate governance, but digital governance. So for those of us in the call who are, your C-suites, your managers, your directors to be, let's not forget that governing technology is an important realm as well. Yeah, do not make the mistake that, I'm so senior already, I'm going to retire soon anyway, these things we all need to do once, but hey man, you're the one sitting making the decision. So a lot of these very high level, critical, policy level, tech related strategies and decisions, like it or not, has to be made by leadership, no matter how unfamiliar you are with them. Or how you think that these things may be very new, but bring the experts in, experts like Eddie, Sia, they will be able to advise. Now, I just want to, before we jump into the Q&A session, and we've got some really, really good questions there. I usually need to promote the Pigeonhole Q&A session, which today I'm not going to because there are more questions that I can cover with you guys already. But I just want to close off the panel discussion right before we go into Q&A by also getting Xia and Eddie. If you could just write on what we've discussed just now and help us get into the mode of corporate governance a little bit more, especially for the benefit of our members from commercial. I mean, you are the accountants, you are the gatekeepers. You are one of the very crucial pillars of corporate governance. So around this concept of IT audit, IT controls, so how does IT audit, corporate governance, controls, how does all this come together? What is the key takeaway that our members from PIIB should bear in mind after our session today? And while we do that, maybe if you don't mind, add in some fun as well. Tell us a bit of war story from your digital bank audits and how this whole IT audit plus corporate governance have morphed into what it is today, in year 2024 here in Malaysia. Eddie, Mr. Xia?
Yes, Steven, let me start off. I think if you are looking in terms of a corporate perspective, like what you rightly say, governance, IT governance, corporate governance, it is the tone from the top. The people from the top needs to be driving decisions, making sure that you have the right governance structure, governance processes, and so on and so forth. So that is very important for all organizations, the tone from top. The second thing that's more important is also your people. Your people needs to be able to understand, all sorts of risks within businesses, and the risk will include both your traditional business and technology type of risk. So understanding the risk also will help you, evolve your organization. How are you going to be better prepared if some of these risks occurs, right? So that is the way that organizations should be able to set up their controls, put in more emphasis in terms of be business controls or IT controls, use of control specialists to help you design your framework and systems and so on and so forth. I think that is the two biggest key takeaway for commercial organizations, how they need to implement a good corporate governance, IT governance structure within the organizations. War stories, I don't really have a lot of war stories, but I can share with you, early days, this is back 20 odd years ago, when people are not conversant in terms of what IT audit is. I remember one of my people when he was asking for, data, financial transaction data. So because they want to do analytics on the data, so they asked the gatekeeper, the finance manager, hey, I need, all your data relating this transaction from period A to, period Z. So, okay. Then for 1 week, they didn't come back to us. So the guy was facing, hey, finance manager, what happened to my data? Oh, wait, we are still printing the information. So apparently, there was some loss of translation. There's a whole stack of paper documentation waiting for us to do analytics on it. Yeah.
So how now I'm curious already. So 20 years ago, would you have had to scan all those all over again, or then you then went on to ask
I
them
think we had a quiet conversation with finance manager. Actually, you can just download this file. 5 minutes, count it, can give it to us already.
Roger. Mr. Xia, would you like to continue?
Hello, Stephen. I'll come from a recent points that which I think will be relevant, as well as some real case story. Okay. When we talk about corporations, this presumably has a certain size already, a size for corporations. And I think the key point for the owner as well as the C-level, they need to know where can they find those people that what Eddie just mentions to put in place to do all these things. And I think some of the audience have already asked a very important question in the vision hall there. So what is the future about this? And imagine that we have issued, the Bank Negara have issued 5 digital banking licenses. Okay, and there is talking about potentially digital insurance company as well. And many of you are no stranger to buying things online. So when you make payments, the payment gateway company is the one behind to running all this. And when you go to any shops to have dinner, lunch, you pay using your QR code right now. All these under PayNet, as you know. All this, almost like you can see things are changing. However, to put the things into the, to put the control into the picture, you need to find the person who understands it. And all the time, I almost have called every few days from the known sources or my clients that can they get the people? Where can they get people to get from current big firms or the IT auditors involved heavily in the process? Because why? That's the best way to get the talent. They saw the process from every different organizations, not the traditional business, those like what I mentioned, the e-business. Okay, so they know the process, they know the risk, and they will suggest a certain control in place. But when it comes into the governance, you can't wait. Currently, the Bank Negara has a very stringent requirements if you involve in the e-wallet business, okay, payment gateway business. All these are payment. It's also governed by Bank Negara Malaysia. And just use as what you mentioned, digital banking as an example. I can tell you that the current development is the board must have the specialists who have this background so that they can understand the problem raised by the auditors. So that's the expectations. It is not that you have different specialists inside, but none of these specialists understand about the IT risk. No. So you will see that currently the board are actively sourcing for candidates who can actually lead this agenda during the board discussion. And when Jet talked about Bank Negara will ask the auditors, when you audit the digital banking engagement, what is your team resource and compositions to go to this audit? Because digital banking no longer the same as traditional bankings, the composition of the teams is almost 50-50. If let's say 5 IT auditors, it's almost like 5 financial auditors. So it's a team of 10. So all this is the information that Bank Negara will ask for. Why? Of course, it's critical for them to assess whether it can be done properly, all of this. And I would say that the board themselves is also need to focus other compliance issues that require under the RMIT. You may know that risk management in technologies. So they need to deal with many different compliance that relates to the IT. It's not just financial audit. So that has already changed the way they discuss at the board meeting. You can't actually run something that, for example, I share examples that the owner who actually owned the e-commerce platform suddenly realized that how come my e-voucher has never end one, keep on issuing one. So that everybody who key in that e-code, as all accountants here, you should know that all these are the discounted, directly deducted from revenues, right? So your revenue is dropping, but your goods are selling out. And all this is become a consideration for the owner to understand that I will need a gatekeeper to control this. And the second thing is I would think about is like when everybody move into e-invoicing, everyone knows that. So when my system issue e-invoice, so it become auto. Yeah, it will become auto. So auto in revenue recognition process. However, the accountants know that you cannot just because issue an invoice, then you recognize the revenue because your stock is still in your warehouse. And because the stock is on the way to the clients and has not been passed on the ownership to the client, you can't recognize it. So you need to have someone who can tell you all this, and then you will need to tell, just now we mentioned, those person who understand the process, and they need to configure and integrate those process in order to make sure that your revenue is recognized completely. Of course, to the income tax, you recognize more revenue is fine. You pay more tax, But for the auditor, they know revenue recognition based on MFRS, IFRS, there's a different criteria, you see. So all this is actually the things that change and raise at the board level to discuss. That is what I can say.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, without further ado, let's jump into the Q&A side of things. And I note that, Diana, if you could assist, I note that we've got quite a few questions there. So what I'm going to do is, if I could suggest to Eddie and Xia that we do this a little bit more expediently, as in each speaker, we cover one question at a time. Okay, so of course, if you'd like to add in, like the other speaker would like to add in, please feel free to. But just to keep it quick, let's see if I can throw you a question and then you answer, then we move on to another one like that. Okay, of course, ideally, we cover the questions based on the number of votes, and we do have the very clear winners in the form of the one with the 11 votes. Let's start with that. Then followed by the 8 votes. Now, so what I'd like to do is perhaps if I could invite Eddie to help us with this question with the 11 votes. Then after this, Xia, just to give you the heads up, I'll get you to take the next question with the 8 votes, okay? Now bear in mind some of these questions, Mr. Xia and Eddie, they have already covered indirectly or in a subtle way. So especially if from our panelist point of view, some of these have already been discussed, then maybe if I could invite you to try a slightly different perspective to share your thoughts. Now, so in terms of the first question here on screen for Eddie, can you help flesh out for us about this grandmother story around how IT audit has evolved over the years? But while you do that, why don't we focus more on the future? I mean, you talk too much about once upon a time or so. So why don't we also talk a little bit about our prediction, especially past president Isaka here, in terms of what's your take on where all this is going to evolve towards the coming years?
Sure, yeah, Steven. Okay, how much have the IT audit landscape evolved since, well, back to the dinosaur days? Definitely it has gone, the need for IT audit has gone and increased tremendously over the years. Like Xiao mentioned just now, right? More and more organizations, be it in digital banking or even more advanced technology companies, IT audit is already involved in your businesses. And for the practitioners, these are organizations that you look at in terms of putting IT audit practices in terms of your external audit as well. Now, if we're looking at predictions in the future, we look at currently, I think the biggest trend for IT audit is cybersecurity, understanding of cybersecurity controls and so on and so forth, and how organizations should protect themselves from these activities. So that is one trend that is up and come. It's not up and coming. It's already here, and it's going to be the year mark or the conversation topic for the next, I think, 5-10 years on as well. The other big topic, which is probably the use of AI in organizations. With the use of AI in organizations, it then looks at your auditors, your technology auditors per se, to understand how your AI works, what are the algorithms that generates the things that they are supposed to look at, be it your, let's say, your obsolescence systems, be it your inventory management systems, be it your predictive models, and so on and so forth. And so I think, in terms of technology advances and things like that, it's already gone step by step. The knowledge for the IT auditors these days now is more substantial than previously. For instance, like I mentioned, cybersecurity is a topic that has been up and coming for many years. Understanding cloud adoption, as many organizations are already on clouds. So IT auditors needs to understand what are the technologies behind usage of cloud, what are the controls, what are the risks within these areas. So I would say, it's an exciting time for IT auditors, IT professionals, in terms of understanding more new things, being able to audit or understand more new type of technology risks, and new ways of putting in controls to help your organizations to secure the controls within the organization. That's my take on this question.
Got it. Thanks. So moving on to the next question, and this one, if I could direct to Sia. Now, this is maybe a question coming from the perspective of those of us who are already in the industry, or maybe also aspiring fresh graduate. So how easy or difficult is it to get into this expertise that you guys are in? So what do you say?
Thanks, Steven. I think, yeah, I think I can answer this question. First is I want the student or the fresh graduate to understand the concept that to work in the IT audit practice is to learn the experience, how to assess the risks, understand the process, and understand what control can address those risks. It doesn't mean that forever you will be the IT auditors. Exactly the same concept as those accounting and finance students. A lot of you have heard from your lecturer or professors telling you that in order for you to get experience in 3 years to 4 years time and qualify as an accountant, you should work in an audit firm to learn how people do in the business, But doesn't mean that you will be the auditor in the future. Okay. Many of you, after have 3 to 4 year experience, you join commercials, big organizations as a financial controller, even as a CFO, some of you after many years of experience in audit. It's because you have the experience that to see through the problem and you know how to resolve it. When we talk about recruitment, I don't need you to come from a computer science or IT background because I'm not looking for a programmer. So even though with a computer science student, if your interest is to involve in system development, then IT audit is not your cup of tea. The IT background has played not a majority of the requirements when we perform our recruitment. And the opportunity for accounting and the financial auditor, that is huge. Because as I explained just now, the C-level calling me, ask me to refer candidates to them, and they will need the candidates who know accounting as well as the process. The process, of course, involves IT. And you don't need me to remind that many of the organizations, as well as forums, seminars, MI magazines, all this has still mentioned that accountants, in order to enhance your value, you will need a second skill set, particularly either in the ESG or the IT related or data analytics, some sort of IT related. Okay, so there is a separate skill set to enhance in addition for your current qualifications in accounting or finance. Every day we spend money through our apps. All these are the important process, from securities, from recordings, authorizations. All these are covered within the process. And this process is not something that a typical IT programmer will do. It's actually come back to someone like the accounting professions who know the process, who can govern it and test and assess the effectiveness of those processes. So therefore, big organizations, even like touch and go, they move into touch and go digital. You know, you have Alipay, you have all these famous digital, we will say operators who are looking for the talents that come from this background. So if you were ask me, would they have an opportunity? There's huge opportunity because they need someone like these professionals with those background and understanding so that they can help them to I wouldn't use the word perfect, but will help them to enhance the control within their process. So that is what I can say.
Thank you very much, Shah. And I want to jump my next question a little bit to this question from an SMP, I believe, which is actually related to this that we just covered. Diana, this is the question with the 7 votes, asking what are the first steps for SMPs, being small medium practitioners, to get into IT audit services. My own answer is work with Eddie, but if I could invite Eddie to take this one, thanks.
Sure, thanks, Steven. Right, now for a lot of the SMPs per se, right, you are really doing your audits based on traditional method, which means it's a non-control reliance strategy. The first step is really to develop your control reliance methodology, which means be ready to assess controls, be it business controls and IT controls. Once you have determined this methodology, then it's about making sure your people are able to provide these services. Assessing business cycle controls and also assessing IT controls. Both are similar in nature, except one is looking really into business processes, the other is looking into IT risk and controls. The best way to do this is really education training. And you may want to tag along with experienced specialists to do co-sourcing arrangements to help you run certain assignments, to help your people pick up the skills necessary to conduct this type of audits. You do have to bear in mind that you should have clients that are ready to be faced with your control reliance approach, because some organizations, even if you go in now and say, hey, I want to do a control reliance approach to audit your financial statements, if they are not ready, then you need to be prepared that you may fail the first year and you still need to fall back to substantive testings. So yeah, so the first thing is define your own methodology, get help from outsiders, or you may even hire people to help you set up your practice. That's my key take.
Thanks, Eddie. Thanks. Yeah, I would like to take Xia's input offline. Sorry, you guys don't see this, but we sort of have a private chat between ourselves going on at the background. But let us try and combine 3 mega questions together, and I'll invite both Mr. Xia and Eddie to help us cover this combo, mega combo of the question with the 10 votes, 10 votes, and 8 votes. But Diana, if I could invite you to help flesh out the one with the 8 votes first. But allow me to narrate to our audience what we're trying to cover here. Yeah. So this question about examples of common IT audit findings. Now, if I could invite both Mr. Xia and Eddie to share here. But let me be a bit greedy also, and also invite you to combo in another 2 questions, both with 10 votes, whereby audience is also asking, number 1, what are the primary challenges that you guys face? Or maybe you want to come from an external auditor's perspective, that's okay as well, when performing this kind of IT audit work. Then at the same time, this is perhaps from the commercial accountant's perspective, whereby they are asking what are actually the examples of minimum reports that IT auditors want coming out of accountants at the preparer side. Obviously, you don't want them to print everything out. Okay, so now you tell us what you actually want. So Mr. Xia, if I could invite you to start first, thanks.
Well, I will talk about from my practice and experience, the challenges faced by the auditors, and of course, the first one is the gap and the understanding between corporation as well as auditors. And as I explained just now in the example of the server room things, people thought that I have a very good ERP, so I don't need control. So that was wrong. And second is I already spent so much on this investment. Why you still fail why he still failed the test? So these are the gap and understanding, because they don't understand the risk as well as the control. It's not equivalent to how much you have invested in the ERP. And the biggest challenge currently faced by the auditor is the auditors, the new generations may not keep up to the latest developments. I give you one example that some of the clients may already start investing in AI. And as the auditor in this forum, you should know that auditor, you need to inquiry and you need to talk to people to get an understanding and as well to get the information right. Try to imagine that if you cannot talk to the people, because if you talk to the people, they tell you, it's not done by me, it's done by AI. So you need to talk to the AI. So how could you talk to the AI? So how do you get information from the AI? And that could become a challenge. Because why? A few AI currently is already ongoing in the market and adopted by organizations. One of the AI functions is like they use AI to auto extractions the information that required by whether it's regulator or auditor for inspection. Because all these documents are heavy documents. If I send an outstanding list or so-called a document request list to you, you will take few days to dig out all those documents for my inspection. And I think the auditor will know this painful point. But if the client has invested in AI, they'll tell you, talk to my AI, and the AI will give you in a second. And all the auto extractions, auditor, you can't just say that because it's passed by the AI, so you believe this document and you start rely and do work on that. No, you can't. So you need to have extended procedures, audited auto extractions. Am I right? So this will be another procedures that currently, though of course it's not mentioned in the ISA, but the concept is there. And I hope that everybody understands. And the second is auditor might have to invest as well as start learning. If the client use AI, then we will have the use AI. Why? You will need to use the AI or the generative AI to stimulate the event and perform the test, because there could be 1,000 kind of scenario, or we call control attributes. And if you just follow the traditional way without AI is, I have set this configuration, these 4 configurations. That means that no matter what, it cannot run out of these 4 scenarios. But if this is by AI, then it could be more out of this scenario, isn't it? Because they will know how to think, they will learn. Therefore, you will need to change your way to audit it. So these are the things I feel that it could be a challenge, and in the next 3 to 5 years.
Well, sounds like auditor got to outsmart the AI also. Oh, Eddie?
Yeah, I agree with, I think the biggest challenge these days for auditors is people and knowledge gap. So once you need to make sure that, you need to be able to talk to people nicely, get their cooperation before you can even get, your reports and your evidence that you are looking into, whatever areas you look into. Now, let me address, I think there's one earlier question that was talking about, what type of documents that accountants need to prepare for an IT audit. Generally, accountants don't need to prepare anything, because normally IT auditors will need to speak to your technology folks, your IT department, personnel, and so on and so forth. But just to give you a rough idea of what type of information we required from your organization, be it your IT folks, and maybe some finance managers may have this information. Things like your IT policies, procedures. The auditors will also need to be able to access systems to look into configuration settings and so on and so forth. They will also see, your processes in terms of change management, development, and so on and so forth. So a lot of this information are not numbered information, but in terms of your control processes, especially technology control processes, validated against, actual observations of system configuration or observation of the control practices that people are really doing it. Yeah. So that is looking in terms of information. The other question is what are the biggest type of, or what are the key type of findings that can impact organizations? These days, number one is always anything to do with security findings, security risk. If you have not put in adequate security controls, that is the biggest challenge to organizations. Not only because, you know, your system may be compromised, but your data within your organization also could be compromised if your system configuration or system settings are not strong enough. That's my thoughts.
Thank you, thank you. Now I'm conscious of time, so it's sort of time to go into some parting remarks as well. But right before that, I'm also conscious that there is a question specifically for Mr. Sia here. So, Sia, if I could invite you to, on one hand, try and cover this question, but at the same time, I also invite you to share some parting remarks just before we close off the session, if I may.
Okay, thank you, Steven. Oh, okay, this question is target me. Of course, in terms of KPMG has also invested in technology. So, of course, this is part of the agenda as well as the directions coming from the top. And I guess that many of you actually interested in AI and how will this AI going forward into the IT audit practice. Blockchain, actually nobody talk about that already. But of course, this is part of the distributed ledger. And going forward, the risk, I mean, based on the audit approach, the risk may no longer just restricted to so-called risk arising from IT. It could be risk associated with AI as well, you know. And many of you, if you are the accountant, you know that always auditor talk about the 5 assertions when they perform the audit of the financial statement. So CVOP, which is CEOVP, okay, the CVOP. However, in terms of the IT audit practice, it has to be extended to further assertions in the future, especially when it comes into the area related to IT as well as the AI. That includes assertion in terms of transparency, traceability, as well as the reliabilities. Because all these are actually coming out so-called basics and the conclusions for the financial periods, that whether that AI that will do the work, is it transparent? Can all these steps and the work performed by this AI is actually traceable? So if the AI can do something but erase the track, then you know that as an auditor, it will be tough for you to achieve these assertions. And if you can't achieve this assertion, there's no difference that someone who just pass you the general ledger and record but have destroyed all the source of documents. I think you should know what I'm saying. Okay. And the last but not least will be auditor will have to change the way they try to conclude the conclusions for the others who actually rely on your method and the testing result, which is you may no longer just tell the stakeholders, say, oh, it is effective, the control is effective. No, they will ask you, it is reliable or not. So you may have to answer this tough question, because reliability could cover many angles, not just about the control operating model anymore. It could include data input, data integrity, data extraction, manipulation risk. You have all these you have to put into as part of these assertions as a conclusions. And if I may actually make a quick conclusion on all this, but I still want to mention that AI present more of opportunity than the threat, you know, because that is the future. And I also hope that Malaysia, especially the financial service business, will collaborate with the regulators and keep up the internationals and the technologies counterparts to actually invest in this. And that's why the younger generations will have the chance to do different things. And you learn how to audit AI. You don't just learn how to operate it. And AI doesn't take away our job. You are the one that you need to learn to know how to test them. So that is what I can say, that the future is currently ongoing.
Thank you, Siap. Thank you. Very, very precious, valuable insights there. Eddie, your parting remarks?
I probably want to talk about 3 key takeaways. First is on people. I think people on both sides, whether you aspire to be auditor, you are audited, or you are being audited, powerful thing is that knowledge is your power. You need to understand the process. You need to understand technology. You need to understand risk and controls. These are the key things that people should be aspiring for. And I saw one additional questions in Pigeonhole talking about students. How can they gain, experience in IT auditing? I think earlier on you have mentioned ISACA. And ISACA has a lot of education resources. They also have open membership for students. Do take advantage of it. You can actually find a lot of information, be it webinar, white papers, and so on and so forth, that can help your education as well. For practitioners, IT auditors, ISACA offers CISA, Certified Information Systems Auditor. That is your CPA, CA equivalent in terms of the IT auditors work. So those are the things that people that should look at if you are trying to increase your knowledge in terms of IT audit processes and things like that. Secondly, if you're talking about businesses, if you're a business owner or you are a senior management within business, you need to talk and think about IT risk and controls within your organization. Doesn't matter you are a startup or a big established business or an SME. These are things that is important to your organization these days and going forward. Lastly, on the practitioners, especially the small medium practices, do start planning to develop your control reliance approach, whether you can do it in-house or you need to gain expertise. That is something that you need to start your journey on, because I see moving forward, there should be a lot of more requirements, putting control reliance approach as part of your audit strategy. Right. Thanks, Steven.
Super. Mr. Eddie Leng, Mr. Sia, on behalf of the Digital Technology Implementation Committee, we sincerely thank you for your deep insights today. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you have benefited from the discussion today. This is definitely a very, very up and rising topic that I'm sure, we hope benefit regardless whether you are a practitioner or a member from PIB or a student or a lecturer or from public sector. Without further ado, Nadira, we pass the session back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Steven, and our panelists, Mr. Sia and Mr. Eddie, for the wonderful discussions. And thank you, everyone, for sending in the questions.